Hi, Rohit. Thank you very much for being here. I'm Sarah from Justice for Education, and today I'm here with you to know a bit more about this school, which is Ganga Valley Educational Trust, which is located in India, and it's one of the happiest and remotest schools in the world. So,
Yeah.
Rohit, who are you? And tell me a bit about how this school started.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for having me on this call. And yes, you said it right. We run what is probably one of India's happiest and remotest schools. Remotest because we are in a border district within India. So as it is, India is quite huge, and within that there are the Himalayas, which is the northern hills that we have on to the north. And within the Himalayas, this happens to be the last town, the last
Okay.
town before the border with China. So we are about 20 kilometers short of that little
Okay.
town and into a village where a small village school runs. Now, this school was founded about 15 years back, and the reason for creating the school is that while there are government-run schools, which is quite a vast network in India, and there are such schools in almost every village, even in those remote areas now. But people are a little reluctant to send their children to those schools because of the kind of education that it offers. It probably does not meet their aspirations anymore. So there is always a wish in amongst the parents and the guardians to send their children to private schools where where the accountability, the responsibility to ensure good education rests with somebody. In
Yeah.
case of government schools, it sometimes appears that nobody is responsible for that, even though the children get free books and free meals and free uniforms, but still they do not, many times, do not wish to go to those schools and come to private schools. So that is the reason why this school was set up so far out in the remote area, and also because these areas are remote, and at the time of founding, which was 15 years back, things were still, they were not as good as it is today. They are difficult to get to. These places are inaccessible. The closest airport or the railway station is sometimes 6, 7, 8 hours away. So you go into the hills only by road. They are underserved areas where the basic infrastructure and facilities has only gotten there now in the last few years, but otherwise roads, electricity, running water, all of these things are a problem there. Healthcare. So these things are still not quite up to the mark. So in that backdrop, we run this school for children and hoping to bridge the gap between what they aspire for and what is available. And that is the reason why our school has flourished, it has survived, and it has done well for the last 15 odd years, even so much without a real plan, so
Okay.
the school has done well, yeah.
And how is the life of the families that live in this region? Because this region is characterized by some particular aspects. So, which are also the main difficulties about living in this region?
Yes, there are very there are many difficulties in the lives of the children, the teachers, and the guardians that we can we actually take for granted in our lives sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first challenge is many times for parents is to make a livelihood itself. These are mostly agriculture based families, and they have small farms. They don't have large land holdings. So in their small farms, they generally grow something only for their own consumption and not on a commercial scale. And over the last few years, maybe last few decades actually, agriculture has become an increasingly difficult profession, both because of things like climate change and water scarcity, maybe a little bit of pollution as well. And so it has become increasingly difficult. And as we spend time in those villages, we see more and more farmers or farming families moving away from the primary profession of farming into either setting up some shops or running small businesses, or taking up some other jobs that are available or sometimes even not available. So as a result of this, their life is tough. Many of the middle-aged couples, working age couples and people, they migrate out of these villages to go and live in the closest towns, which is where they can earn a livelihood for themselves, and also sometimes to educate their children, because if there isn't a good school in the vicinity, then it becomes very difficult for the children to travel up and down in the hills.
Yeah.
Even if there are schools, I think the biggest problem for the children is accessing the schools in the hills, just to be able to walk down from their homes down to the school and go back up again. Or if there is a road existing, in many cases there are no roads, but even if there are roads, sometimes they can be sitting in a small vehicle for like 45 minutes to an hour on a bumpy road, which is not not a tarred road, but a countryside road on which the vehicle goes and comes. And so getting to school, getting back, both for the and for the parents as well, but more so for the children. And there is no public transport. There is no such facility there. So the biggest difficulty is to get to school and get back. And if there isn't a school close by, that is a big problem.
Okay. So about education, what type of education this school provides and why it's one of the happiest school in the world?
Yes, so we are the founders and the current people who are involved with running and managing the school. We hold the idea of having happy children and therefore a happy school as central to our existence. And for that reason, we try and base the philosophy of the school is based on principles which are a little more democratic in nature, in which the children decide what they want to learn and what they don't want to learn, how they want to learn. And we do not really insist on too much of regimentation, too much of competition, or any reward or punishment. Actually, we follow a no reward, no punishment kind of practice. We encourage children to have open conversations, absolutely like two adults, without letting the difference in the age come in between. We are happy to have noisy classrooms as long as the children are energized. And all of our teachers get actually oriented and trained to teach children in this way, even before they really take up any teaching. And we hold this very dear to us. In this process, we also sometimes need to take the parents along, because a very happy school, but a competitive environment at home, or too much of pressure at home can confuse the child. So sometimes we have to talk to the parents, we have to counsel them, and convince them about the benefits of nurturing children in an environment that is happy and free, as against conventional schools which insist on a lot of discipline and competition and rigor. So that's what makes us the happiest school, I think. And our children are extremely happy to be at the school. They don't want to go back home. Anytime we do any activities or after school or remedial classes, all of them want to stay back, because they know that once they get back home, they are probably not allowed to be so happy.
Okay, so you also try to change the mentality of the families. This is really important.
Yes, very much, because sometimes many of our children are first generation learners, which means that the parents are either not literate or semi-literate themselves. So there is a great sense of insecurity sometimes that, what is going to happen to the child when he or she grows up. And therefore, they are always watching, uh, they're watching, other children and the progress of their own vis-a-vis theirs, which brings in a certain amount of competition. And sometimes they get upset that these children are having too much fun, or they're not uh, keeping in step with the rest of the children. But we have to convince them that there are many other benefits of that a child experiences when they are given the freedom to flower like a real flower.
So this is the education is intellectual, but it's also physical and spiritual.
Yes, it is. Yes, we try and integrate the elements of academics and physical education and spiritual education and intellectual education, intellectual development, all of them together into our framework. And there are many schools in India that try and follow this framework. So with their assistance and guidance, we also try and implement as much of it as is possible. But given that we are a small school, we are so remote, and it is difficult to find teachers and train them and keep them excited and engaged. There are challenges, but we do our best to ensure that the development is all round and holistic, as against putting too much focus on one and therefore creating an imbalance in the child's development. And the results have shown. The results have shown because most of our students, I would say all of them, the school is now 15 years old, and anytime we talk to them or we invite them over for something, the old students, they are very happy and they're very nostalgic about the years that they have spent in this school, even though, uh, even though competitively, they may not have done. Not
Yeah.
that many of them have become doctors or engineers or done business or some, MBA or stuff like that. Even if they have not done it, they're very happy about the years that they spent in the school, about this distinctive, way of education that they experienced. And it is for that reason that their hearts are always, a little bit of their heart always stays back in the school, and they're very happy to come back.
This type of education is rare in India, isn't it?
Yes, it's quite rare because we are a fairly competitive set of people. We are always fighting for uh, very few opportunities and more people. So therefore, being competitive is in our DNA, and to go against the tide is a little difficult sometimes.
And at the moment, how many children there are in this school?
So this is a small school, Sarah. We have only about 100 children right now enrolled, and which is a substantial number in the hills because the villages are pretty, spread out. And some of our children come from as far as 7-8 kilometers, on tracks which are not really motorable. They are motorable, but they're not very comfortable to ride on. Many of them walk 3-4 kilometers like that. So in schools like these, unless they're located in the bigger towns or the cities that exist in the hills, it's difficult to really get too many students. But as of now, we know that especially after COVID, the uptake has been very good ever since we started to take some new initiatives and bring the school back to life after COVID. The word has gone around, and we've invested quite a bit in the infrastructure and computers and a broadband internet and interactive screens and things like that. And so because of that, there is a huge demand for children to want to enroll in the school. We are short of space though, so we can at best accommodate about 120, 130 children at this moment. But I think for a small pocket of happiness. It's been a very useful institution to the people.
And about the future, which are the future goals of the school?
So we are wanting to, like I said, we are constrained for space. All our classrooms are nearly full, or by the next academic year, I know that they will all be full. So we are wanting to expand the campus a little bit, which essentially means that we need to construct new buildings. And given the costs involved in building a new school, given the remoteness of the place, which makes which makes all construction and provisioning and engineering very difficult, because these places are so remote. We know that that will take a couple of years, but we are likely to get started very soon on the construction of the new buildings. And progressively over the next few years, I think we will be able to scale up the infrastructure. And once we can do that, we want to take, right now the school operates up to the 8th grade. So the children go off to other schools in the 9th and upwards. But we want to scale it up to a K-12 with a affiliation from one of the central boards in India, so that this facility is available to those children, and at least that cluster of villages, which is around the 15-20 villages that we target, the children are well taken care of for many, many years to come. So that's our idea right now.
Okay. What's your last message for the people that will listen your words?
Okay, so my last message is, you're talking to people who run definitely one of India's happiest and remotest schools, and it could even be one of the happiest and remotest schools in the world. I don't know. Remotest, it definitely could be. And happiest is probably you can join us and make it happier than it is. So we are always welcoming of volunteers, of teachers, of teaching assistants, of interns, of visitors, or even online teachers or people in any capacity who want to get involved with us. We welcome them. There is a lot to learn. There is a lot of self-awareness that comes from experiences at the grassroots level when you deal with children who don't come from very privileged families, who have lived a very confined life, out there in the hills, and they haven't had much exposure to the world. For them, it's a great experience when people from the outside come and share their perspectives or do something, and vice versa. For all of our volunteers and teachers or any outsiders who have come and done some work with the students, they carry back very, very sweet and I think lifelong memories of the time that they spend here. So I would encourage anybody who's watching this to reach out if it rings a bell in your heart somewhere. Get in touch, and we will be happy to invite you over, so that you too can experience some life-changing. You can have some life-changing experiences with us and the children.
Okay, Rohit, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time, for your words, to know more about this remote and happy school. And thank you everyone for having watched this interview. We will meet in the next one. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Nice talking to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.